Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my next Avatar fan commentary track, and this one is going to be for Book 1 Water Episode 12, The Storm. So continue to recommend other episodes of Korra and Avatar for me to do as commentary tracks going forward. But if you want to sync up your copy of the episode with this commentary track, obviously have your DVD, Blu-ray, or whatever version of the episode you have ready to go. And I'm going to stop speaking as part of this introduction in a bit. And then there'll be about a 10-second pause with no audio. And then when I start speaking again after that pause, that's when I'm going to hit play, that's when you should hit play, and that should sync both of us up. So, bringing the introduction to a close here, after the 10-second pause and I start speaking again, that's when you hit play and we should be synced up. Okay, so here we are with 112, The Storm. I have this rated as being my 8th favourite episode of Avatar. Again, I do rate quite highly the episodes that do involve backstory, because I think when Avatar does backstory, it does it exceptionally well. This was a very important episode to get at this point in time. And I've already done the Avatar and the Fire Lord, and I loved in that episode how they did Aang and Zuko learning about the history of the war at the same time. And it links into this episode with how Aang and Zuko, we get both of their backstories that establish why they're in this position at the start of the series at the same time as well. In that it's all revolving around that storm, in the same way the Avatar and the Fire Lord is sort of like the build up to the invasion and the comet coming. It's really nice sort of duality there, just linking these two episodes in terms of very clearly, it's the episode after this that Zuko and Aang make their first connection, Blue Spirit and so on. But yeah, we start off here with, this interesting kind of representation of, Aang thinking about, what happened in the past, why he finds himself in this position. And the idea of people needing him, needing their avatar, and what did he do? Why does he feel so bad about what happened, being out of action for so long? It's because of how it happened. This is an example of doing a sort of nightmare / daydream very well. And it's an example of they knew how to do it in this episode, the 12th episode of the series. Yet, episodes before the end, they couldn't do it that effectively. The one nightmare that Aang has in Nightmares and Daydreams has nothing on a sequence like this. That is how you actually tease, the threat of Ozai and, a character being afraid about things. It's amazing how they got it right here, but just didn't in Nightmares and Daydreams. And that has been happening before. And it's a sense of concern, whereas they also played up the rest of the group being very oh yeah, we're all ready to go, we're good to go, what's up with you, Aang? As if they were just unaware of him being particularly afraid about it. I love that little bit of animation there, just oh yeah, that's how they walk up onto Appa. He just gradually lifts his tail up, and it's like a kind of movable ramp. Food eats people. And just nice little bits of dialogue there like that. Very, very fun. Just started off like this. Both groups in the same general area, and so then Aang just is nothing, everything seems okay. Zuko feels the same way, but Iroh senses there's a storm coming. Alter the course, but no, Zuko is set. Now, this is where we need to go. And then the safety of the crew. And wow, what a thing to say right as the commander comes up. And obviously this is prior to the crew knowing about the way things are. I wish they had covered within the series how Zuko gets his crew. That we know it was they're here because they respect Iroh. That's the only reason. They weren't assigned to Zuko. Zuko was pretty much just banished on his own. And if not for Iroh, Zuko wouldn't really have anything. And I wish they covered that a little bit more. and maybe mention that here. Could have added another extra layer onto this episode. Instead, we had to kind of learn that elsewhere. But yeah, the group needs money, so Sokka's gonna have to take up this job with the fisherman. And here we go. The experienced characters sensing that there's a storm coming. And yeah, this guy's pretty fun. You know, he just says a lot of things, and it's just like, you know, oh, double pay, great. Who said that? But yeah, here we go. The storm was correct. And yeah, like, Zuko's pretty much ready for Agni Kai here, in a way. And that's probably the only sign of it in the show, just that they consider Iroh esteemed. And again, this is them not knowing where this all comes from. He's the spoiled prince. They don't know why he's here on his own, basically. And Iroh has to stop, basically, in Agni Kai from basically about to break out. Noodles. This is a great example of Iroh's wisdom. There's no need to get into a full-on fight over this. But it speaks to, the sort of culture in the Fire Nation that, this probably happens when there's not someone level-headed as Iroh around. That Agni Kais happen over these sort of things. Like, we learned from the Kyoshi novel that it happened over, like, who would become the headmistress of the Fire Nation Royal Academy for Girls. Like, there was Agni Kais to decide who was the headmistress. And here we go. And Aang's used to getting a pretty good reception as the Avatar. And this time it's like, no. You were gone. Things happened when you were gone. And there's a sense of blaming him for that. And yeah, the way Katara words it plays into everything. He'd never turn his back on people, but that's what happened. And even though you don't really blame Aang massively, because he was just told he was the Avatar. He'd done very little of the specific training towards being the Avatar. He couldn't have known the full repercussions and stuff like that. And ultimately, as Katara says to him, if he didn't run away, he would have been killed with the rest of the Airbenders, and the Fire Nation would have completely won. There would be no hope left, and Aang is that hope to everyone. Aang is the hope for both Katara, the rest of the world, but he's also the hope for the Zuko as well. And yeah, here we go. The atmosphere of the rain as Aang reveals this, his history here. Why was he in that iceberg? Why does he feel so ashamed here about what happened? And this is what you can do with a character like Katara, who's, able to help people through these sort of situations. And yeah, Appa and Momo are there as well. So as they deal with this, as the storm is going on, we get this story. And yeah, here we go. 100 years ago, Southern Air Temple. This is when he's informed. Again, the Avatar's usually told when they're 16. This time Aang's told when he's 12. He's obviously got the arrow tattoos at this point, as we can see. Highlighting that, this is a day or two before he does, end up in the iceberg and is gone for 100 years. And also highlights the skill involved in creating a technique like that. He made it up. That is key to how he got his tattoos, that you have to make up your own airbender move. And it's a complicated move in that the others couldn't do it immediately, but he teaches them. And they get to learning it, and it becomes this new move. And here we go, the explanation. This is how we know you are the Avatar. And it's so interesting, because we thought that this was just a generic way the entire world locates the Avatar through the Avatar relics, these toys that previous Avatars used. But now we know that this is the Airbender method specifically from the Rise of Kyoshi novel. That the other nations have their other methods. The Earth Kingdom has a specific method, and the other nations, we don't know about the Fire Nation method or the Water Tribe method, but, you know, it just is great world building to establish that there's multiples. And as storm clouds are gathering, that is referencing stuff from the Avatar and the Fire Lord of Sozin, you know, and the colonies is kind of happening at like this time, because obviously this is post like Death of Roku, so he's really going in on that. The colonies have been here for a while. There's been a build up to this. Now with Aang 12, you know, enough years have passed. He's still been, he's been waiting for the comet basically to strike against the Airbenders, and I suppose this is them sensing that Fire Nation are preparing for something, and I think that's really great that there's that tease of the genocide to come. And here we go, Zuko's backstory. So he wants to go into one of these war meetings, and Iroh warns him against it, that like, basically, I know what these guys are like, you're not like them, you don't want to get involved with what they discuss in there. That he knows just Zuko personally, he's not going to like what he sees in there, and something like this could happen, but he's willing to help him out. And they're a bit sensitive, but obviously Zuko speaks out. It speaks to his good character though, but also speaks to the sort of culture in the Fire Nation at this point, led by the Fire Lord Sin Sozin. And yeah, here's some of the harsh tactics that the Fire Nation are willing to use in the war. That they're willing to send out new recruits to be sacrificed. Just a distraction. Just viewing them as like meat. And he makes a good point that like in any other system really would be the mark of like someone who really respects their people. But here it's seen as this great insult against these generals above him in rank. And here we go. You shouldn't be excited that you're the Avatar. It's a great honor. But everything changes. You're viewed as being kind of better than everyone. Teams can't be fair if Aang is on one of them. I love that they basically have almost a repeat scene here of like, we saw this earlier on before he was the Avatar, now we see it once he is the Avatar, and just people's perspective of him changes just overnight like that. And it's just fun to see other airbenders. Just this kind of like fun antics that they get up to. Here's some Pai Sho. Monkey Gyatso, was he part of the Order of White Lotus? And then obviously some kind of tricky, cheating, I suppose. Just showing the good relationship with Gyatso as his mentor. And then this guy's so serious. You see, Gyatso really has Aang's best intentions at heart here. That acknowledging him as like a person, that like he needs to grow up as well as grow up to be the Avatar. Basically the complete opposite of, say, like Ozai with Zuko and Azula, who only viewed them on their role as to help him rather than them as people. Hence why Ursa, focuses so much on Zuko. And we see that compassion come out from Zuko kind of through his mother, learning from his mother. And yeah, Agni Kai, what was more or less about to happen up on deck earlier on. And we saw Aang Nakai before, of course, episode 3 with Zhao, and we see that this is where he had one before. And this is what was being referenced from before. What happened when you dueled an Old Master. And it's obviously Zuko without the scar, so this is where he gets it. From not fighting that general guy who he was willing to go up against and fight over that disagreement that the two of them had. But knowing that his father steps in, because, it was in the Fire Lord's chambers, he's not going to fight his father. Momo just asleep in Aang's arms there. It's pretty cute. Yeah. Gyatso trying to make it as normal as possible for Aang. Whereas they're probably more thinking about the war is coming. We need the Avatar to be involved in this and up to speed. Sent to the Eastern Air Temple. And obviously this is a huge change for Aang. He doesn't want to be separated from Gyatso, highlighting again Aang's flaw of being attached to the people he cares about. Greatly so, and not wanting to be separated from Gyatso. Look how angry he is about it. Still. He nearly goes into the Avatar state. And before that could happen, he makes his choice here. The Avatar relics. And here we go. It's just the example of even the other monks maybe not, caring enough and not being able to sort of predict that if they push someone too hard, something like this might happen. So Aang goes out on Appa to run away. And this is where it comes from. They get caught in the storm. And he's forced to go into the Avatar state to sort of protect himself and Appa. And then 100 years pass. And yeah, the regrets about not being there when they all died. It's one of the few references really of Aang to what happened really. Should have been explored a little bit more. And yeah, good point from Katara. That's what would have happened. Even in the Avatar, against Sozin's Comet and Powered Firebenders, it wouldn't have been enough. Aang is good, but against that level of threat, without the training and the other elements, he was never going to be able to change that on his own. And here we go, the true cruelty of Ozai. We've had his name mentioned and stuff like that up to this point. And here we go. This is how bad it is. This is the guy Zuko wants to get the approval back. He wants his honor restored by being able to return home to the guy who burned him and be accepted again. There's some great shots here of just... there's Azula kind of for a first time appearance. Zhao watching on, and Iroh can't watch this. That's where it happened. And some people know about the full story, some people don't. And this is why he was banished and sent on what up until the start of the series was basically a fool's errand. The Avatar who Sozin for the remainder of his life couldn't get. Azulon couldn't get. And so on. And even Ozai was using Zuko to try and find the Avatar. And just, what a transition there. The happy younger Zuko versus what Ozai basically has turned him into. And you completely get Zuko at this point. Like, you understood him greatly after episode 3. You had a completely different perspective of Zuko compared to the first 2 episodes and the third. And now it's just, you double down on that of, you really, really feel for Zuko. He is just as much a victim of the Fire Nation as anyone else. And it also helps to have that slightly different view on Iroh of, like, you know, Iroh cares fundamentally for Zuko. He's not really here necessarily to help Zuko capture Aang, but just to guide Zuko down the right path. And this is the real show. Like, when it actually comes down to it, first lightning redirection, very cool. And obviously that's redirecting like natural lightning, so that's like crazy. That even Iroh couldn't do it like perfectly. He still got, like, you know, frazzled by that one. But yeah, it's just a great show that when the time really comes down to it, Zuko does care about the crew. And you see the two of them, at odds at the start of the episode, willing to help each other. And this time Aang knows what to do. That more experience in battle, journeying around. He's not going to get caught in the storm this time. And here we go. Zuko gets this choice. And he makes the right decision this time. Choosing the safety of his crew and showing them he does care over just pursuing Aang at all costs. Showing you that he hasn't been sort of completely corrupted by what happened there. There's still that pure character there who made that decision to, you know, want to protect others. Hating the idea that the Fire Nation would sacrifice its own men. And Zuko, at the start of this episode, was more or less feeling that way about his own men. But you see here that the Zuko from the past and the Zuko now, they're still the same. He's still unwilling to let good people just be sacrificed for the sake of certain missions. But here, this is a massive wave here. And it looks like history is about to repeat itself. Is Aang going to be in ice again here? This time he has other people to save. He's not going to let them down this time. So instead of just self-preservation here, it's Avatar State to get them out. Using the ball here to get out. So really, really cool. And it's almost this sense of like, did the Avatar State know to keep Aang in the ice that time versus not to do it this time? And that's what's interesting, is that it is defense mechanism Avatar State both times, so it's not Aang in control. So it's effectively like Raava in control. Like, why wasn't it just, you know, seal Aang in ice again there? And I think there's that sense of just, in a way, Aang being frozen in ice that first time, you know, saved him from the Air Nomad genocide. And this time, no, you're needed. We'll get you out. So Aang proves himself to this guy that, oh, yeah, you're a good avatar. Free fish. Oh, there we go. There's the fish. And I like this from a certain point of view, but I do wish there was just a little bit more. Like, it came back again, and thinking about what happened to his people. I get, like, in the comics right now, you have him with the Air Acolytes trying to sort of, you know, restore the culture, you know, bring it back and so on. But I do wish there was just that little bit more focus, because as it is, like, it's such an important event, the Air Nomad genocide, to just basically have so little focus on it outside of like a reference here or there. And then when the trading card game is like your big insight into events, it's telling that you really haven't focused on a pretty major event much. But yeah, like this episode is just fantastic. You know, it covers your two main characters really, really well, of straight away presenting you the core character arcs for both characters. In a way, both have to restore their honor, but from sort of a different point of view. Aang wants to prove to the people of the world that he can be their avatar, and that when the time comes, he will make amends for being gone for 100 years and come back and, end the war and bring peace. And Zuko wants to restore honor, but he's trying to do it in the way as told by his father, when he just has to, basically do it himself, find his actual destiny, and, realize that the person he was in the past isn't this like weakness in him holding him back. That's his strength. And when it takes a while for him to embrace that, but it's such a great journey to go on, and just this episode highlighting that perfectly across the episodes, with the sort of duality of kind of the incident that led to his banishment plus what was happening here on the ship, of just the care for people under your command, and how he cared about it in the past. He seemingly didn't at the start of this episode, but the true Zuko came out in the end. And then just the fact that there's little things in this episode thrown in there, like the first look at lightning redirection, in that they don't focus on it like at all. It is just an action sequence, and Iroh does it, and they make a little bit of a joke out of it with his hair standing on end, but it's an incredible thing that he was able to do, and you're just like, kind of blink and you'll miss it type thing of like, wait, what? Iroh just did that? Is that a power that firebenders can do? And the fact that it takes them like nearly a full season to get around to like properly explaining it is like pretty incredible. But it speaks to the quality of the writing, that they clearly had it planned out. And yeah, like the backstory is great. Obviously the framing of it with the storm happening here is more meant to be just, again, creating a situation that can affect both sides of the story and bring the two of them together. But it's only like a handful of like minutes in this episode that is actually devoted to the plot with the fishermen and stuff like that. It's mainly meant to be just Zuko showing a lack of care for the crew, and encountering for the first time really on his journey someone who isn't being respectful towards the Avatar, and instead is resentful of the fact that the Avatar has been gone for a while. How does Aang encounter that? So in that sense, a very character piece episode that I think works so well. That's why I rate it so highly, why I rate it in my top 10. It's just a very, very necessary episode, and especially with the Blue Spirit, like I said at the start, following this, that moment of just like Aang looking back at Zuko choosing not to follow Aang for the sake of his crew, and then next episode is the one where you have that idea of like, do you think maybe we could have been friends? It's like, yes, that is perfect teasing for the future, that maybe one day these two, who have somewhat similar backstories, they're obviously very different, but there's a similar like edge to them in a way of they both want to ultimately find themselves and grow to kind of prove themselves in a way. Find the destiny, Aang's destiny to be the fully fledged Avatar who'll end the war, and Zuko's destiny ultimately to be the next Fire Lord, but a Fire Lord for peace, and how they'll work together to make that happen. It's just again, wonderful stuff. So yeah, they're my thoughts on The Storm. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. Continue to recommend other episodes of Avatar and Korra, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.